The content of this video is not medical advice or a substitute for physical therapy. Please consult your physician or physical therapist before starting any exercise program.
In today's tip, I want to share with you 3 exercises to help you start strengthening your flattened feet. Now, I just want to clarify that if you were born with minimal arches or almost no arches like I was, that's really not the problem, and that's not what I'm trying to address here. What I am addressing is whatever arch you've had, if you've begun to notice that it's collapsing a bit. So maybe you take your shoes off to pat around your house in your bare feet and you've started to notice that it's starting to bug your knee, or maybe it's getting into your back a little bit and you sort of crave whatever shoes you have the best arch supports in. That really tells us that your feet are weakening and it's time to get them stronger, because a weak foot is going to collapse inward, and that's going to start to put stress all the way up the movement chain. So you can see if I roll my foot to the inside of my arch here on the left, my knee caves inward towards my other knee, which collapses my hip a little bit, and that's going to eventually get into my back. So if you're already experiencing some of those aches and pains, it's only going to help you to strengthen your feet. And if you're not experiencing them yet, but you're noticing that your arches are starting to collapse a little bit, then let's get to it and avoid that pain altogether. Now, what you're gonna need for today's exercises are a 2x4, or maybe a coffee table book that's about 2 inches thick, and a chair or something to sit on, because I think this first exercise is hard enough without trying to do it standing. So let's get started. In the first exercise, of course, socks are off, so shoes are off and socks are off, and we're gonna have bare feet. I want you to start by spreading your 10 toes. So point your feet straight ahead and spread your 10 toes. Now, if you don't quite have that kind of control over your toes yet, just reach down and manually open up your toes. Now, I ask you to do that first because most of our shoes will force our toes together. And even if you're wearing shoes that have a wider toe box, it may be that your socks are forcing your toes together. And our feet do best when the toes can spread. So we're just going to open them up to get started today. Now, the next thing I want you to do is we're going to start working on moving our big toes independently of our little toes and vice versa. Right? So the easiest way to do this is to leave the little toes down and lift the big toes up. So go ahead and try that first. That's the easiest move for most of us. And then once you've got that, go ahead and see if you can push the big toes down and lift the little toes up. Now, this tends to be harder for folks. So if you find that you can't do that yet, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to make that happen, I want you to reach down and push down on your big toes while you're lifting your little toes up. So the idea here is as you lift and lower your little toes, but you're holding your big toes down, you're going to start to kind of learn where that muscle is that lifts the little toes. And over time, what I also want you to learn is where the muscle is that's going to help keep the big toes down. So you're going to have to learn to lighten up that finger holding the big toes down until you can do that with that big toe muscle itself. Now, what's the magic of that big toe muscle? Well, that muscle runs all the way down the inside of your arch here. And so it helps to support the foot on the inside of this arch. So it's a very important muscle as we're starting to rebuild the arch of the foot. So we want to learn how to keep that big toe down as you lift the little toes up. This is all working those deep intrinsic muscles of the feet, and they probably have not been stimulated in a while. So don't worry if you can't access them at first. Keep working on it. See if you can get 10 repetitions a day, even if you have to hold the big toes down for a while. It's okay. Just work on it and see if you can make some improvements. Now, for our second exercise, we're going to do a heel raise. And you may be thinking, well, I've done heel raises all the time. I know how to do a heel raise. But let's make sure you're going to do it in a way that really supports your arches. So these are more extrinsic muscles of the feet, meaning the outer muscles that surround the ankle, and really and truly are all in the calf. But they run down the bottom of the foot, and therefore they support the arch as well. So we're going to work them a little bit. I want you to get your feet pointed straight ahead, make them shoulder width, hold on to something for balance, make sure you've got all 10 toes staying on the floor, and you're simply going to raise your heels in a way that keeps your ankle joint nice and neutral and straight. So make sure you're avoiding sort of rolling your ankles outward like that. We don't want to do that, right? We want to keep them nice and straight. So you're simply going to raise your heels, keeping your ankles straight, all 10 toes on the floor, and then lower them again. And I'm just going to turn this way so you can see this view as well. So raising the heels, all 10 toes on the floor, and then lowering them again. And I want you to do that about 10 times, at least once a day, to start to improve the strength of all those muscles around your calf and the control of that ankle. All right, now, before I go to my third exercise, I just want to remind you that if you like this information, if you find it helpful, please click the like button. And if you haven't done it already, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it, and I drop these tips every week, so I'd love for you to get more of them. And if you feel like it could be helpful to friends and family members, please share it with them. We really appreciate your helping us spread the word and help to those who really need it. Also, every week I put out a newsletter that has more in-depth information on the exercises that I deliver in these videos. So if you want more information, if you like what you're learning and you want more, go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in the description below. All right, now for my third and final exercise, you're going to need your 2x4 or some sort of a raised surface that's at least 2 inches thick. And I'm going to once again ask you to hold on to something for balance. I'm just going to turn this a little bit so I can hold it better. And you're going to step up onto this 2x4 with your feet about shoulder width again. Make sure your toes are firmly on it and your heels are hanging off. Now, hold on to whatever you're using for balance as lightly as you can while still staying on the board. In other words, I want you to work through your feet here and not rely too heavily on your hand, but you'll see why I'm asking you to hold on to something when you get up here. It's definitely a little teetery. But what you're doing is you're keeping all 10 toes engaged on the board and keeping your heels level with your toes. So try not to let the heel dip, but also don't raise the heel higher than the toes. You're just trying to balance here a little bit on the board. See if you can hold this for anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute. Now, if 30 seconds is still too much, if you're starting to feel some strain or any sort of like overwork in your feet, then please get off earlier. But if you can hold it for up to a minute a day, I think you're going to start to notice some significant strength in your feet along with the other 2 exercises. Probably in a matter of a couple of weeks, you'll start to feel the difference. All right, so I hope you found those 3 exercises helpful and you're ready to start getting stronger feet. Until I see you next time, keep moving and be well.